Good evening, everyone. My name's Dan Johnson. I'm from Innovation Federal Credit Union. And I have the pleasure to kick things off here this evening. This is, I guess, our fifth information session so far in the exciting opportunity for Innovation Federal Credit Union to potentially merge with ABCU Credit Union based in Beaumont and Edmonton, Alberta. First of its kind in Canada, where two credit unions are looking to merge cross-border. So that's very exciting. You'll hear that word a lot from me tonight, exciting, and I think the other word you'll hear is growth. So I want to welcome everyone. We will have an opportunity to ask questions at the end of the presentation. I'll kick things off here and then turn it over to Peter Brown. He is Director for Innovation Federal Credit Union, and he'll be able to start things off talking about things from a governance perspective or from the board of directors, your board of directors. He'll talk about a few things around our purpose and strategy. And then what I want to do is a couple things, I guess. I want to talk about, the whole exciting opportunity that we have by merging with the folks from ABCU Credit Union. But I also want to talk a little bit about an update or a status update around us as a federal credit union and how things are going. We're almost at 2 years being a federal credit union. So I think it's important to every once in a while engage with the membership and talk a little bit about how successful your organization has been and maybe some of the things that we're thinking about into the future. And then conclude with a few slides just wrapping up of, well, what does this merger mean to innovation? What does it mean to me as a member and an owner? So that's the agenda. And again, there'll be lots of opportunity at the end for folks to ask questions if they need be. And also make sure you use the chat feature as well. You'll be able to do that on the right-hand side of your screen. There's an icon at the top that indicates chat, and you'll be able to ask questions along as well, and we'll be able to moderate those as we move forward. So I'm going to turn things over to Peter for his bit, and then I'll take over after he's done.
Thanks, Dan. It's an honor and privilege for myself to present on behalf of the Board of Directors and for Innovation Federal Credit Union. Being a 27-year cooperative, retail cooperative employee and leader in our cooperative system and banking with Innovation Federal Credit Union, or iterations of it throughout the years, starting with my paper route growing up in the Battlefords. It's been near and dear to me. So it's a real honor to be in front of you all today. Dan mentioned pretty forward thinking as a credit union. Well, the reality is innovation is a result of multiple credit unions coming together. In fact, 20 at this point, and we consider ourselves a game-changing organization, and we're very excited for the future and where we get to next. Across the credit union landscape, there's quite a buzz about what this federal credit union is doing, and this first of its kind interprovincial merger per se. So super excited about that, and we continue to stay focused as a board, bringing this all together, tying it all together with cooperative principles. That's the most important thing with us, and then of course people and culture, and our responsible banking platform. So Dan's flipped that slide, and I love this. I love that slide with the cooperative principles, responsible banking, and people culture slide. I'll get you to move one back, Dan. This is kind of the cornerstone of what we do as IFCU does. Responsible banking is a pretty cool piece. It's fair, it's transparent. I love the no-fee banking, and we're motivated and determined to maintain responsible banking, and it's what we do to our members. So we're super excited about that. The second bubble, and I think it's so important for an organization, is the people and culture piece. It's essential. as a board, like our board feels it's super essential. If we're going to hit our strategic success in the future, we need quality people and moving the organization forward. It's super important. And some of the reasons why is strategic alignment, number one. If our people and our organization's values align, you can get some amazing things done. And we see that every day in this organization. We're super excited about that. When you have a strong culture of our people, you can create a strong attraction and retention to the organization. People want to work for an organization that has those kind of qualities. Another area is risk management. When we create a culture where we have strong risk mitigation throughout our organization, we can be fiscally responsible to you, the members, at the end of the day. And that's ultimately what we strive to do, is provide value to the members every day. Of course, it's in our name, but innovation and adaptability, continuing to be prepared to be nimble, move forward, and stay relevant to you as members too. And then performance and engagement. Our employees if they're engaged, the reality is there's just more production and productivity and commitment, and the board feels that this is a super huge piece about having organizational performance to get our strategic initiatives aligned and moving forward. So, and now I mentioned to you kind of a cooperative guy all my life, but so when we talk about the third bubble there, and it's more in detail on this slide, is the 7 cooperative values and principles. And I love this. I love the cooperative principles. There's 7 of them. This is not just specific to credit unions or co-ops. It is across the world. And these 7 principles stand true. And it's very important to us to have open and voluntary membership. There is no discrimination. There's no member can have more shares than another member. The reality is, if you fit within the bylaws that are set, you can be a member at our credit union. And the second piece is the democratic member control. Members get to actively participate in the organization. You can come to AGMs. You can come to meetings like this. You get to participate and have a vote. 1 membership, 1 vote. So that's pretty cool. Economic participation. Well, we all love those quarterly payouts based on our equity, and that's a wonderful piece. And so if you participate and you support the organization, you get to benefit from that. We have autonomy and independence. You have a local board. You have management. The earnings of this organization doesn't end up in Joe Blow, United States or across the world. It stays here, and that's cool. And then education, training, and information. We have a responsibility under the cooperative values that we will have train and create educational information for our members and educate our team members also about what cooperatives are and what we do. Cooperatives among cooperatives. This is a big piece. We take an active stance to try to support other co-ops, and other co-ops take an active stance to try to support our credit union cooperative, our financial cooperatives. So those are important pieces. And the final piece is concern for community. Very proud of what we do and what we give back in the communities we serve. And that helps focus on the needs of our members in those communities where they live, work, and play. So we're very proud of those pieces. Flipping over to a little bit around governance, a little bit deeper. This is currently our board structure today. We'll see how it moves forward. Today I know there's the elections currently out online, so you have a chance to vote and be part of your credit union making that democratic decision. But today, this is our director group. We strive pretty hard to have a board that has no gender, represents more than 70%. We work towards that. And some of the other pieces is we have a diverse range of backgrounds. and degree of skills. We have some, 4 professional director designations. That's very impressive on this board. We have 3 MBAs, we have CPA, we have professional risk designations, doctorate and masters in education. So there's some, your board is runs at a high level and works very hard to ensure your organization is getting set up for the future. So something we're proud of. And in addition, the ABC board member will align to our competency matrix moving forward. Speaking a little bit more in depth around governance, some of the pieces or initiatives we continue to work on includes engaging third party to conduct our board assessment. We want to continue to make sure we're effective as a board and we continue to have those assessments of ourselves. We have worked pretty hard on a formal approach to director succession to make sure we have those competencies moving forward, making those decisions into the future of this organization. The creation of an annual board development and strategic discussion calendar. Some of those pieces help us think future focused and moving forward. And then just making sure we align our compensation principles to our financial stability and board principles for sound compensation. Basically, it's a lot of words, but making sure we're aligning our compensation model across the organization and that it makes sense. And of course, the board is highly engaged with a number of different pieces around the strategic plan and strategic direction of the organization, those foundational goals and so on. Some of those pieces include member obsessed. Really, we want to make sure we make memorable experiences to our members, drive growth. It's all about our members. We're very focused, and on a lot of our meetings, it's amazing how much we talk about providing the best service possible to our members, and we want to continue to provide those pieces. And it ties together with some of these pieces, like technology, helping it make it better for our members too. Thriving teams, mentioned earlier, it's one of the core things in those other bubbles, how people are important. Well, we invest in our people. Helping getting them engaged, training, different kinds of cultural awareness pieces. We continue to work very hard to develop leadership and grow those competencies within our team. Financial strength. So just operational excellence is very important to our organization. Again, you can have some big dreams, but if you don't have operational or financial strength, it makes it difficult to follow through on those things. So when you have capacity to make those things happen, it's pretty cool. And we continue to remain focused and profitable in this organization for you, the member. And then digitalization, big piece of our structure moving forward. It helps grow our model through a platform of using technology and be able to get it across Canada a little simpler. And then that federal continuance, that's a huge piece, getting that a national reach, getting that piece moving forward so we can continue to leverage our capabilities, flexibility, and grow our credit union. So it all ties together on that shirt we seen a little earlier about how it's made in Sask and built for Canada, such an important piece. So when we started talking about ABCU and having discussions, what was some of our guiding principles? Well, there's a lot of great discussions leading up to it. And the reality is we had some great alignment and within those conversations, how membership value can continue to remain strong on both entities. We found a strong shared value in community and how we want to continue to support and be part of community. Mentioned it numerous times, how our employees and our teams are important to us, that people are important. Well, both credit unions find employee value the most important. So it's a strong value. And then just partnership value, how we can drive some efficiencies together and working together on those pieces. So good, robust discussions that is gonna help benefit moving forward. So I've come to this point. So I'm going to turn it over to management, but we'll see if there's any questions that come through the chat, and we'll kind of monitor them. We'll see. Some questions may be a little bit more operational in nature, and we'll pass it over to management to respond if there's some of those components. But I'll pause there.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Any questions for your board of directors?
Doesn't look like any are coming through, but if any pop up a little later, I'll be around for the little call too.
Okay, perfect. Well, thanks, Peter. I really appreciate kicking things off for this session. I think it's important for the membership to see, the perspective of the board of directors. The officials that you've elected to represent the membership and lead the organization. And then I want to dig into a little bit of the operations. And as I said earlier, really talk a bit about not only the potential merger, but also talk about the notion of, why did Innovation become a federal credit union? And, why did we want to choose the flexibility that we now have to be able to operate beyond Saskatchewan? And so I'm just going to spend a little bit of time on that. And if I go back to some of the reasons or the rationale why we decided to look at federal was, our industry is being disrupted. There's lots of change happening, and the thing is that it's all happening at the same time. So when you think about it, competition is fierce, and we've got some great competitors, the banks, FCC, but we also have new competitors like fintechs. So the competition has never been more fierce, and we embrace that. We think it's important to have a high level of competition. It keeps us sharp. It keeps prices and service where it needs to be. So we actually embrace competition. You bring that together with rapid change in consumer behavior, our members' behavior, and also the demographics that we were noticing within our traditional region. We were noticing that our communities are flat or declining in population, and they're all aging. So as a result, so is our membership. When we looked at becoming federal, the average age of our membership was 48.8. Now that seems like a reasonable number, but a few years before that, it was 43. So as we were operating in our communities, we were noticing that our membership was aging as well. We wanted to make sure that Innovation is also positioned for future generations as well. And then you bring in technology. So technology is both a catalyst for those first two disruptors. That's the reason why we have so much competition. It's also the reason why there's rapid change in consumer behavior. And then also technology is also a way that our members are looking to transact as well. Not all members, but a good portion of them. So you bring them all together and you have this unprecedented disruption. So we looked at various options and we decided to go down the path of becoming federal because 97% of Canadians live outside of the province. We still want to make sure that we honor and respect those who built our credit union, but also have the ability to grow, again, not to take over Canada, but grow nicely and continue our logical growth as we move forward. So we talked to 3 stakeholder groups. We talked to our members and we said, if we have the ability to continue to be successful and to continue to grow, we can continue to offer things like no fee banking, free unlimited e-transfers, continue to invest into our communities, and also afford some of those new products and maybe those channels that financial institutions need to look at. We also talked to that same group of people from an owner perspective, because as a credit union member, you're also an owner. So we also wanted to talk about the need to be able to have to grow and generate appropriate returns so that the credit union was successful long term. So we can line up to those cooperative principles and those elements that Peter talked about. And then the last was our staff group. Right? They were also a very important group that we wanted to talk to. And really, when you're operating in a growing organization, there's typically more career opportunities. You have the ability to compensate people appropriately. And so that was a real important conversation that we also had as we were looking at this option. So those are some of the reasons of the rationale we looked at federal. But I want to just now go into a few slides that talks about, well, how's it going? Right? How has being a federal credit union helped or enabled our strategy to simplify banking for Canadians? And also, more recently, how has 2024 been? Before I get there, I just want to talk a little bit about our growth strategy. So again, we're not looking to take over Canada, but we want to continue to grow members. We want to continue to grow our organization. And so our strategy is a digital first strategy. We want to bring on members that want to deal with us in a digital fashion. Again, making sure that we keep those locations and keep those banking channels that you want to choose available. And then if we find that we have enough members in a certain region in Canada or Saskatchewan, we'll also look at feet in the ground. So more recently, we've opened locations in Saskatoon and Regina. We had staff members in those locations, but we now have retail operations there as well, because we feel that every once in a while, our members want to come in and see us. They need that tailored advice and guidance or some complex needs. And then we'll maybe look at a physical location at one point. And that's really where the whole notion of mergers came about when we started to talk with ABCU, because we do have enough members and business in, say, Alberta as an example, for us to look at potential mergers. So I think it's important that that I share that with you and just indicate that, as Peter mentioned, we're really good at having conversations and mergers. We're essentially 20 credit unions coming together over time. Peter talked about our strategy house, those three pillars: member obsessed, thriving teams, financial strength, and those two foundational pieces around digital and federal. So I want to talk a little bit about that. What we've been able to do is look at a business differently. We've been able to grow locations and not close them. So if you look at, say, 2024 and 2023, we've been able to open locations in Saskatchewan, and if the merger goes through with ABCU, we'll also have a few other locations across the border in that Edmonton and Beaumont area to help also look at things from a growth perspective, and also the members that exist in that area currently as well. So you'll hear a lot about growth. So the flexibility that we now have as an organization really allows us to grow. We've opened locations in Saskatoon and Regina. We opened locations in Isle La Crosse and La Loche. Again, this, as Peter said, we're an organization or credit union that's doing some wonderful things, and we think that our growth mindset has allowed us to be able to do those sort of things. We want to grow our membership. We want to grow with our members and with our communities, and we've been able to do that. The trend across Canada in the in the credit union sector has been kind of flatlined or decreasing. We've been able to reverse that trend and grow members over the last few years. And again, if we are able to move forward with the merger opportunity, another 77,000 plus members become a part of the Innovation family. So we're pretty excited about that. I put this slide in here for a reason. The graph you see on the left, and I know it's probably tiny on your screen, but if you look at the black dots, you can see that's where our members are or exist back in 2015, 2016. So you can see we have a number of members well outside of our traditional region, which is that western side of Saskatchewan. Lots of members in Saskatoon and Regina, but also in Calgary and Edmonton. So when we looked at our data, we noticed that there is a real opportunity for us to have a presence in places beyond our traditional space. And then also we've been able to grow our membership from a digital perspective as well, which again is a ubiquitous concept for us, and that's why we're so focused on digital also. The other thing that is quite interesting is if you look at the two locations of ABCU, and you were to draw a circle of 50 kilometers around it, there's more people that reside in that area than all of Saskatchewan. Plus Beaumont and the region is one of Canada's fastest growing cities. So again, very exciting for the membership of Innovation to be a part of the success that ABCU has and will continue to have moving forward. Peter talked about that one pillar around, around our purpose, and that was responsible banking. And this is, a very important component of our organization. We have three pillars when it comes to responsible banking. Overall, it's just us doing the right thing when it comes to financial services, but we have three main pillars: save, earn, and give. And because we've had the flexibility to grow and be successful as an organization, we've been able to achieve some pretty significant milestones. Like we now have over 40,000 of our members who don't pay service charges. They have free banking, free unlimited e-transfers. So that's the save component. If you look at the earn component, since 2007, just by doing business with Innovation, our members have received almost $50 million in earnings. Again, a real strong milestone. And I think the next slide talks about last year being one of our best years ever. The other beauty of a growing credit union that has hard-coded within its policy like Innovation is 2 to 4% of pre-tax profits go back to communities. So that give piece of our responsible banking is so important, because as we grow as an organization and our bottom line grows, so does that 2 to 4%. So again, over $10 million back to communities since 2007. Yeah, this is what I was mentioning earlier. So in 2004, over $5 million, $5.2 million back to our members just by being a member of Innovation and doing business with us. Again, it's our way to ensure that one element of the cooperative principles is sound, and we've modernized it a bit by paying it out quarterly and even offering a youth dividend. The other thing we've been able to do from a member obsessed perspective is really what I would describe as authentically aligned to truth and reconciliation. We've been able to move forward in a fashion where we can, step to the plate and truly look at truth and reconciliation from an authentic point of view. Going into various communities that are underbanked or not banked at all, and helping them, move forward from an economic perspective. And that's a couple of reasons why we have locations beyond our most recent one, which is Buffalo Narrows. Now we have locations in Isle Cross and La Loche. When you think about it, La Loche is a community that has around 5,000 people in and around it, and they've never had a bank or a financial services entity in that community. So we view that as a real opportunity, but also an authentic way to provide alignment to truth and reconciliation. One of the things we did is that, because we are successful in achieving the vote to move forward as a federal credit union, and we were successful as an organization thanks to you, our members, we initiated a community development fund, and that was to augment a few of the ones we already had in place. But we provided this fund a $5 million boost. So now we have the ability to give back to communities. That's in line with that 2 to 4%, but $5 million development fund. These are for those larger initiatives. We've been able to help communities do larger initiatives, and this $5 million stays in the communities that built Innovation in Saskatchewan. So very excited about that. But again, only in a growing, dynamic organization can you do wonderful things like this. I want to spend a bit of time on that second pillar, that thriving teams that Peter mentioned. Again, we've been able to grow over the last 3 years substantially. That means that we've also been able to provide more jobs to our team members. So we've grown our staff complement. They're there to not only ensure our organization is operating properly, but also ensuring we're providing that advice and guidance that our members are looking for. Again, if the merger moves forward, we get to welcome into our family, another strong group of employees from the ABCU organization that are, again, fully developed, care about credit unions, care about their members. So we're super excited about that as well. Some other things in that thriving teams element is we've been able to move our summer student program. Over the years it started, we had like 4 or 6 in the program. Now we have 24 summer students that we employ, and then what we want to do is have them continue to work for us each and every summer, and then offer them a job after they're done their school. We develop our people so that they can provide that tailored advice and guidance that you're looking for. We spend close to $1 million. last year, just looking at developing our people. Again, very exciting component in that thriving teams category. The other thing I just wanted to mention, very important to us, is making sure we have a diverse workforce so that we move forward having great conversations and looking at things from a number of different angles and from a number of different diverse points of view. And so we have some, real strong success stories to share from that perspective. And so there's a couple slides here I just wanted to share with you. Financial strength. Peter mentioned it. I like to always, when I talk about financial strength, talk about the notion of appropriate profits. So, it's important that credit unions, are well capitalized, they generate appropriate returns. And what I mean by that is that it's not our number one focus, but we want to make sure that we're returning good profits back to our organizations. Because as we generate appropriate returns, everything works quite nicely, right? We get to put money away for, economic events. We get to give more back to our communities, more back to our members. And again, at the same time, we can build those products and services, and I'll get to digital in a little bit, to ensure that as an organization, we're moving forward for future generations, not for just the generation of today, but future generations. So I'll pace through these slides fairly quickly, but it just gives you an idea of how we've been able to, thanks to the support of our members, the support of the members supporting our strategy, i.e. federal, been able to grow as a credit union. And so in 2024, we ended up over $4 billion in assets. You can see our deposits have been growing similarly over the last while. And also our profits. You can see here that our profits have had a nice steady increase as we've been able to grow and be successful. So is our bottom line. So going back to some of those concepts I talked about, when your profits are growing, that means the money going back to the communities also grows. So you can see how we've been able to increase their investment back into our communities and also back to our members. So this gives you an idea of the distributions we've been able to provide back through that. We call it member rewards, but the traditional cooperative principle of patronage allocations, we've been able to provide back to our members with a record-breaking amount last year in 2024. And capital is so important to us. We believe having a strong foundation in our balance sheet is very important. So we've been able to grow our capital base over the last number of years. So we're quite excited to share that as well. But just don't take my word for it. One of the things we do is we engage with the international rating agency that on an annual basis comes into our organization for a day. We present to them. We talk about our strategy, our future strategy. We talk about our loan portfolio, our capital, our funding ability, and all of those things come together with an overall rating. So we've been able to, year in and year out, achieve a stable rating, and that's in times, even through things like pandemics, and as we emerge from there, we've been able to, even today's economic uncertainty, obtain a real solid rating from the DBRS Morningstar folks. Now I want to talk about digital a little bit, and just maybe why is it a priority? Because when you think about financial services, not everyone is wanting to bank digitally, but we do have a lot of members that do. And this more recent study talked about that 80% of consumers would actually look to shift their business to a bank or credit union with a compelling digital-only proposition. So when we look at studies like this, and also look at graphs like this, it allows us to really confirm that we need to get serious about having a strong digital strategy. And so this is our own member activity. You can see that in 2015, digital interactions outpaced physical or in-person interactions, here at Innovation. And so when you move forward, you can see how it's even more exaggerated. Of course, I think the pandemic probably accelerated a lot of that. But the reality is that we do have a lot of our members that prefer to do some of their transactions digitally, and we want to make sure that we're lined up with that. And remember that study from before, this isn't just, my kids or the youth wanting to bank digitally. This is 80% of all Canadians, all consumers, rural, urban, young, old, are starting to more and more look at digital options. So we want to make sure we have both digital options, but also some of those traditional channels. So if you prefer to come in and see us, we love that. And that's why we put a moratorium on branch closures, is because we want to make sure that we're an organization that has all of the banking channels that our members deserve and are looking for. And that could be both digital and physical. For some, it could be just physical. Like we have over 4,000 members that do not have our banking app downloaded. And then we have a number of members that like to deal with this digital. So that's an important consideration for us. And it's allowed us to move forward as an organization, become more efficient, again, to simplify banking for Canadians. We believe there's one common element in all of us, and that is people like less friction. They like less friction when it comes to banking, whether that's less time standing in line, less time on hold waiting to talk with one of our advisors, or if they just want to bank with us in a self-serve fashion through our mobile and online banking. National reach, I talked about that a fair bit. I just wanted to maybe provide a few slides. One of the things that we've been able to do is formulate partnerships that we typically wouldn't have seen if we were to be, provincially regulated organization with the inability to market or grow beyond our provincial walls. So we believe we're starting to bring some of those partners to our members that may want to use some of these real exciting partnerships for various reasons. And it's well beyond maybe just transactional banking, but it could be into other components. So I'm almost done. I wanted to talk a little bit about the overall partnership value when it comes to the ABCU and the potential Innovation Federal Credit Union merger. I think Peter did a great job of articulating, some of the real opportunities that we have. But for you as a member, I think it's important to kind of recap some of those pieces. We believe in a growing organization, we're better able to serve the member. And when you look at a like-minded, strong credit union like ABCU coming together with ours to create a new credit union, we're quite excited about that. Both organizations have very similar outlook. We both embrace disruption, we both embrace competition, and we believe that bringing organizations of like-mindedness together allows us to move our strategy forward to simplify banking for you folks. We do have some members that already, live in Alberta and in and around Edmonton. And so being able to expand the overall footprint into Alberta is an important consideration, and allow us to, some of our existing members, if they need something that's a little bit more complex or a new card, we're able to serve that as well. And then together, that whole notion of growth just becomes even more easy when you bring organizations together that are well capitalized and successful. And I talked about this already. Really, growing organization, there's just more to be shared back to communities when you have a policy of 2 to 4% of profits going back to communities. It allows us to ensure that we have those thriving teams, that advice and guidance, that tailored advice and guidance that our members are looking for. And in a growing organization, combining two credit unions that are successful like ABC and Innovation, we can afford some of those products and services and those rates that our members are looking for, not only now, but ones that are into the future. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is our 5th session. We have a voting period that's currently in play. It started on the 2nd, goes over the next couple weeks. So please take time to go online, go on your app, come in and see us to cast your vote. We'd really appreciate if you came out and voted, and it'll be up to you how you want to vote. But we really want to encourage people to get out and vote, because one of the things that we experienced when we went federal is we had strong engagement, and that's really what we want to see from our member/owners as well. So these information sessions are important. If you want, we'll have some good Q&A after this, but also please reach out to any one of us at Innovation. here's some of the timelines just to pay attention to. The voting period will happen over the next couple of weeks, and then we'll also have our annual meeting and the special meeting at the same time on June 26th. There'll also be an opportunity there to engage in this conversation also. And then similarly, ABCU has this similar engagement or interaction with their membership happening at the same time. And we have a few more sessions in Alberta that's happening this week. And then they'll have their special meeting the day before ours. So that gives you some of the dates. Again, we've made it real easy and slick for our members to vote, so please do. And I'll just pause there. I think we're at the point now where we can open it up to questions and have a good conversation about the future of your credit union.
Hey, Dan, would you like it if I started walking through the chat questions out of the gate here?
Yeah, that'd be great.
We can address those. Okay. Okay, so the first one we have is, will we see an increase in our dividends?
Yeah, so if you look at the one slide that I mentioned or showed around the dividends going back to our members, what we have is a notion where we pay out about 15% of our bottom line and by way of dividends. So as an organization grows and becomes appropriately profitable, if that's a larger number, then the dividends will also increase commensurate with the overall success of the credit union. So theoretically, if we're growing and continue on the path we're at, then yes. But again, dividends are not a guarantee. There's always a decision made at our credit union. It's quarterly by the board to ensure that the capital is in a solid place before dividends are paid.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Can't predict the future, but yeah, awesome. Okay. Second question, where do you see the growth potential in this merger? I think we alluded to it a bit, but.
Yeah, so like just the whole notion of two credit unions coming together, creates a certain level of synergy. And if you look at it from our perspective, we grow instantly with, the size of ABCU and the membership and the staff and the teams. Similarly, they would be looking at us and technically they would be growing as well when you bring the two balance sheets together. But when you look at our growth strategy, we looked at Saskatchewan, and it's quite competitive in Saskatchewan, especially when it comes to credit unions. Credit unions own about half of the market share in Saskatchewan, and our goal is to win business from the banks, not from our peer credit union members or credit union peers. And so when we look across Canada, we look at places where there's low credit union market penetration. Ontario has about 7% market share by credit unions. Credit unions own about 14% in Alberta. In the territories and Nunavut, it's 0%. There's no credit unions in the north. So when you think about where we would focus our attention, those would be the kind of those three spots. So when you look at Alberta and just the sheer growth that Alberta continues to have year in and year out, that would be a real strong area for us to focus on as a combined entity to look at growth.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
There's two questions that are similar vein. I'm not going to read them word for word. They're lengthier, but they lean towards around how, I guess, how members will see value and just kind of assurance where management would not be, reaping the rewards of a merger or the credit union getting larger. So just some controls in place around management and some expenses there around the proposed new organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like today we have a real strong governance model. Like the board of directors approves a strategy, they approve a risk appetite, they approve a budget and a financial plan. And then what we do as management, we make sure that we reside within that risk appetite and within the financial curbs that the board has provided. And we frequently report back to the board to make sure that we're not going or veering off course. So when we look at an annual budget as an example, And it's an elaborate budget that allows us as management to have good clarity around how we want to move forward as an organization. And I think that would be very similar in the new organization where we'd be able to put forward some scenarios or some options, and the board would review that and provide the approval or not. But once approved, then we get to frequently report back to make sure that we're moving forward. I think we always have longer term key performance indicators. We want to make sure that we keep our organization in a proper range of efficiency. We want to make sure that we're still offering the products and services, the free banking that we currently have. So the value that we create as a credit union goes back to a number of different stakeholders. It goes back to the credit union by way of retained earnings. It goes back to the members. It goes back to our communities, and also the staff group is a big component of that too. And we want to make sure we have a solid compensation environment for us to attract and retain talent to provide that advice and guidance that our members are looking for. So we believe that we have a real solid model that aligns to all of those major stakeholders, and I don't see that changing going forward.
Right. Thank you. The next one here, this might be a difficult one. We'll see. What percentage of members live outside of Sask when Innovation went federal, and what percentage live now outside of Saskatchewan?
Yep. Yeah, I don't know that off the top of my head. When we looked at things back in 2016, we were in around that 6 to 8% of members were members of Innovation, but living outside of Saskatchewan. And again, we weren't able to market to them. So somehow they either found us online and decided to become a member, or they moved away and stayed a member. So I don't know exactly what it is today, but what I do know is when we look at some of the details of member growth, when we do this on a quarterly basis, I'll just shoot to this slide. When we do this on a quarterly basis, we track, well, how have we been doing growing members now that we have the flexibility to be able to, operate outside or market outside. So you can see here, and we just picked, Alberta, Ontario, and BC. You can see here the numbers that we've seen for growth outside of Saskatchewan. So these are overall digital members. You can see how that's growing nicely. But we keep track of some of those key markets. And you can see that we've been fairly successful in growing our overall membership, but at the same time, growing members in parts of Canada that we see that there's low credit union market penetration.
Awesome, thank you. I think you touched on this one, but maybe you can elaborate a little further on, I guess if this proposal or this merger was to follow through, what kind of structure or policies would be planned to ensure local community support, continues and a voice and leadership isn't lost in that regard?
Yeah, really good question. I think there's two of them in there. So the first one would really be about that community support. So we did two things. We made sure that 2 to 4% of pre-tax profit still goes back to all of the communities that we operate in. And also even different definitions of community. So that 2 to 4% is still in play. So as we grow, that 2 to 4 will grow. The other thing that we did, and the board at the time when we looked at becoming federal, they said, you know what, everyone at the board table here may not be around in 10 or 15 years. So how do we make sure that we, celebrate or acknowledge the support that we receive from our members to go federal? And that's where that $5 million community development fund came about. So we took $5 million out of our bottom line and put it into a fund, and that fund stays in the communities that built Innovation. So Saskatchewan communities. So that I think that was another pretty admirable gesture by the board to say, thank you for your support, but also here's something that creates that legacy for the organization. And then as far as governance, one of the things we put in our bylaws is we made sure that at least 50% of the board at Innovation comes from Saskatchewan. Because again, over time, people change and the same people that were a part of the decision may not be around. So we wanted to hard code that as well. And that's in your bylaws. So bylaws can only be changed by the membership, through the annual meeting process. So again, I think that's another solid way to ensure that we don't lose some of that built-in Saskatchewan made for Canada essence.
Yep. Thank you. There's a question here about if we could get the slide presentation mailed to membership by request.
Yeah, for sure. I think we'll also try and have some of like this sort of recording available, like say on our YouTube channel as well. But for sure.
Awesome, thank you. And then looks like we're kind of coming close to the end here. What does the loan book of the new merger look like, and how will that change the risk profile if it goes through?
Yeah, so the loan book, very solid basket of loans. When we've had a chance to look at, so our lending team has had a chance to meet with the ABCU team and have a look at some of the, the commercial type loans. So there's a very similar combination to innovations. There's a good portion that are consumer based. A lot are insured mortgages. There's some commercial loans, and then maybe there's just a handful of ag loans, which would be a little bit different than ours. But if you take that all together, it lines up extremely well with our current risk appetite and how we like to see a diversified book of loans. It helps us too because as you can imagine, we grew up on the western side of Saskatchewan, so a lot of our business, our exposure is there. So by having the book of ABCU blended into the larger balance sheet, it diversifies our risk as well.
Okay. Then another one just popped in. So I guess with respect to the proposed bylaw special resolution to create a Class C equity shares, really the question comes down to, is it possible at the end of the day that a vote can convert Innovation to a bank? Yeah. Is there a possibility of that?
So that's a really good and technical question. So one of the things that we wanted to do is make sure that our bylaws started to position our credit union so that we could look at different forms of capital. Because what's one of the things that holds the growth of credit unions across Canada back is that we really only have one main source of capital or equity, and that's retained earnings. And so some parts of Canada, they've developed things like investment shares with members. So, we reach out to our members and say, hey, what do you think about putting some capital at risk into the organization? We'll pay you a premium for that. So we're going to be looking at different forms of capital. So what we're doing now is just setting the stage for different forms. But at the same time, making sure that we don't, move forward until we can ensure that we don't get into a situation, where we have like a special interest shareholder or some sort of scenario where we lose, the essence of being a credit union. So that we're paying extra attention to some of these bylaw changes, but also the potential to have different forms of capital, whether that's primary or secondary, is important to us. Because as we move forward, we want to be able to grow or continue to grow. Now, I think at the end of the day, there is in a lot of cases the ability for cooperatives to demutualize and step away from that original model. But so that's something we're making sure that is a part of the conversation for sure, because that's exactly the questions that the board is asking of management to make sure that we don't set ourselves up for some sort of situation that we're not prepared to accept.
Yep. Well, we're looking like we're at the end of our chat. I'm not sure if there's any other questions that out there that coming in, or unmuting and asking.
Yeah, this is great. If there's any questions by way of voice or in the chat, this is I think the important part of these sessions is to be able to engage the membership, about the future of your credit union and again hold the board and management and teams accountable to to the strategy that we've put forward. So I really appreciate the questions. Okay, well, I think we're in a good spot. Again, if I didn't answer the questions how you were thinking I should have, please reach out. Just give me a shout. 306-741-0708 is my cell number. If I can't get you the information you're looking for, I'll certainly get one of my team members to. So again, please reach out from that perspective, and we still have some time here until we go into our special meeting here at the end of June. So we've got some time to engage with our members still and answer any questions. So I mean, I can speak to the last question here. Really talks about how are things with the ABCU. They've had a couple of virtual sessions. The two in-person ones are happening tomorrow and the next day. So we'll get to know more about some of the questions or the sentiment of the ABCU folks. What I can say is that the board and management and the team at ABCU are quite excited about the potential, and I think that's an important group of stakeholders, right? Because when the members phone in or come in and they ask about this whole merger thing, they're not looking to Dan or others. They're looking to that advisor that they've trusted over the years to say, well, what do you think? Is this something that I should support or not? And so I think it's important that everyone is well informed. And so I can't speak exactly how it's going, but I know it's been positive from what I can tell so far, just talking with Dave and Cindy and others over at ABCU.
Looks like another one came through too, and it's just a quick question about this individual is in Nunavut, and how many members are in the territories? Do we know?
Yeah, I don't have that offhand, but I just know that there's so much opportunity. So and so we were, when you look at going to places where there's low credit union market penetration, Nunavut and the territories are something that we want to start thinking about in 25 and maybe look at getting serious about in 2026.
Okay, well, I'm going to take a moment to just thank Dan and the team for helping make this virtual session run flawless from a technical standpoint. So thank you very much, and I'll leave it to you, Dan.
Yeah, well, thanks. I would echo that for sure. I just, pretty proud of innovation and all the things that we can do, whether it's, from having a session like this. And the other thing I really appreciate is the membership, dialing in on an evening and having great questions and engaging in not only the conversation about the merger, but also the conversation about your credit union. So I really appreciate that. And yeah, Peter, thanks for kicking things off. I think it's so important to have the directors of the organization, demonstrate their support in the decision that they've made, and it just really, I think, creates a really good opportunity for a conversation. So thanks everyone, and again, please reach out to anyone at Innovation if you have any further questions. Well, there you go. So Wesley, 21. That's actually a good number, I think. All right. Well, enjoy your evening. Again, please reach out, and thanks so much.